Thank you. So my name is Jackie Murphy, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission Board of Directors. And I am sitting in for Bard Hill tonight as he has a conflict. I only learned of this about a half an hour ago or 45 minutes ago, so I asked for some grace in if I missed something. But first of all, we started the recording. I'm calling you to order. And first thing I need to know if there are any changes to the agenda.
Staff
Hearing
doesn't have
none.
any.
Okay, I'd say we'll move on to number 2. And I think most members are familiar with the group expectations. And I assume they will by Emma. There she is. She's posting them into the group chat if anyone needs any reminders. But basically, let's all treat people as decent human beings as we would expect to be treated. So we're going to kind of move right through this because we have a really, yep.
There's a public comment for anything not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. So I'm looking for public comment for anything not on the agenda. So that would not include the public hearing.
Right.
Anything other than that. I have a very small screen, but I don't see anyone raising their hands.
Like we're good. Thank you.
Okay. So Charlie's going to keep me on track, but we do have a packed agenda, so we're going to move right into the FY 2027 Unified Planning Work Program Public Forum, or the UPWP. And I'm not sure who's leading that.
I don't know that we need any staff person. I think we just ask if there's any members of the public who would like to give us any comments for the FY 27 public forum at this point in time.
And if you are here, if you could raise your hand so we could know that you would like to make a comment.
Jackie, we have Chuck here in the room.
Okay.
In the meeting conference room. We're just waiting for the owl to catch up. Chuck, can you please introduce yourself and talk to the owl so the camera can see you?
My name is Chuck Lacey. I'm from Jericho.
Okay, thank you. And you have some comments that you would like to make about the UPWP?
I do.
Well, the floor is yours.
So my comments are on the housing section. I'm from Jericho. I've lived in Jericho Center for 40 years, raised my children there. I also farmed in many places.
Can you talk into a microphone, please?
Please talk louder and talk to the owl. Yeah, you can move over here as well.
Yeah, and Chuck, I started to get the sense that you want to give us a comment on the regional plan as opposed to our work program. Is that correct?
Well, the thing that whatever was attached to the notice for this meeting.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, we have two
Yeah.
public comment topics. One is our work program, and then the next topic will be our regional plan.
I'll wait for that.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I was going to ask the same question. So
And,
let's.
I'm sorry.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to comment on something not on the agenda, or the UPWP work plan, the FY 2027 work plan, which is just kind of being formulated now?
And the only other person that popped in, Tom Darenthal, are you here to comment on the regional plan or on our work program? Okay. We asked. It doesn't sound like we have any comments on our work program.
Okay. Let's move on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the draft ECOS regional plan. This is the first public hearing. I'm going to turn it over to staff member Taylor Newton, who will give us some background, and then we'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Are folks seeing this in presentation mode?
No, we're seeing presenter mode.
Yeah.
Got it. We're gonna swap. Thank you. That's why I asked. All right, you guys seeing it in presentation mode now?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So for an agenda for this part of the agenda, I'm going to do just a very base level reminder about where we are in terms of the development of the regional plan itself. Then I'm going to very briefly review the pre-application comments that we've received from the Land Use Review Board. We received those comments on December 22nd, and we haven't had a board meeting since then. Then we'll open the public hearing, and we'll hold the public hearing. I just want to remind board members that the point of the public hearing is to hear from the public. We don't need to respond. We're just going to record comments, and we'll provide a written response to comments that we hear tonight back out to the public in the next week or two. Lastly, you'll close the public hearing, and then you can have some discussion amongst yourselves if you would so choose. Any questions on how we're going to handle the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll move on to just providing you with a status update. Back in September at your board meeting, I provided the full review of how we developed this plan over the last 4 years. So go back and click on that presentation if you want to get the full review. But back in October, the board decided to submit our regional plan to the Land Use Review Board for pre-application review. We held a meeting with the Land Use Review Board in December, actually a series of meetings to review our regional plan. And then the LURB provided us with a written memo on December 22nd, and we'll review the findings in a moment. And so now we're at the stage where we're digesting those LURB comments as staff. We're starting to work with our long-range planning committee here at CCRPC to decide about how we're going to respond to that feedback from the LURB. And then tonight we're also gathering public feedback. We also have a draft of the plan posted online that we have a bunch of feedback on. We'll gather that all together in the next day or two, and then review it with our long-range planning committee next week. So in terms of the Land Use Review Board comments, they provide a memo, and the Land Use Review Board reviewed our plan for conformance with a few different things. One, conformance with the statewide planning goals. There's 15 of them. That's in 24 VSA 4302. There's a section of statute that talks about the purpose of the regional plan and whether or not we're meeting the purpose of what a regional plan needs to be. The LURB looked at to confirm that we've done outreach in a way that complies with state statute, that we've done meaningful participation with our municipalities specifically. The last thing the LURB is looking at is ensuring that we meet all 12 required elements of a regional plan, including developing a regional future land use map that meets the requirements of Act 181. The LURB has provided both required changes and advisory recommendations to CCRPC. Internally, we've kind of taken advisory recommendations to be of two flavors. One is like a true advisory recommendation where the LURB has said, you meet this element or you meet this goal, but here's something else helpful that you may want to include. There are other times, particularly on the map, where the LURB has said, we're not sure if you comply with statute or not, but here's some advisory recommendations. In that case, we're taking those advisory recommendations to kind of be some hints about how we could comply with statute. So overall key takeaways from the LURB letter, in terms of the state planning goals, we meet 13 of the 15. The two planning goals that the LURB has kind of red flagged for needing more content, or perhaps an additional action or two, are related to educational and vocational training opportunities and providing those opportunities in Chittenden County. And then also the state planning goal related to natural and historic features. Staff has already talked about this specific comment with our long-range planning committee. We feel very confident about being able to respond to the LURB's comments and comply with statute related to the goals. In terms of the plan elements, the LURB has found that we meet all of the required plan elements. However, the LURB does have some comments on the regional future land use map itself. Overall, the LURB generally agrees that we've made a regional future land use map that complies with statute. So overall, pretty good job, CCRPC. Like we're in good shape. But they've noted a few issues, and I'll be general here, and we'll get a little bit more specific by category on a few slides. One of the general things that they have comments on, or they've asked for more information about in a future submittal, is where we've mapped new or non-traditional centers. Think Village Center on Shelburne Road in South Burlington, or think Village Center on Shelburne Road in Shelburne. These kind of places that aren't historic, that don't have a lot of historic features, but are important centers of our community where we have a mix of uses and where our municipalities are planning to grow. And so, we're working with our municipalities to go one by one there to figure out how to address that general comment. Also, the LURB noted that our neighborhoods, which as a reminder are the planned growth areas and village areas on the map, are pretty broad, are pretty large geographies. That's because of having access to water and wastewater infrastructure in most of those cases. And so for some of those planned growth areas in particular, the LURB has asked for either more information to justify having that area be a planned growth area and complying with the requirements for planned growth areas in statute. In other areas, the LURB has directed us to use a different future land use category, mostly transitional or enterprise in some circumstances. Lastly, the LURB noted that we have 4 municipal plans that may expire. In the past, this hasn't been an issue. We could just adopt the regional plan with municipal plans expired, but now state statute talks about specifically with planned growth areas and village areas. For those areas to be mapped in municipalities, there needs to be a regionally approved and confirmed planning process for the municipality. And so these municipalities know that they need to get that regional approval and get confirmed before we warn our second public hearing in April. We've set up schedules for these municipalities to hit that deadline, but the LURB did remind us that that's important given the criteria for those 2 land use areas. Any questions on general comments? Hearing none, just a reminder, this is our framework for Act 181. We have our regional future land use categories on top. There's 11 of them. 4 of them are areas that descend down into being a part of either the center or the neighborhood state designation program. And some of these areas are eligible for Tier 1B exemption from Act 250, 50 units of housing or less. That's your 2 center categories, your PGA, your planned growth area, and village area. And then we have our 2 centers in our planned growth area that are eligible for Tier 1A, full exemption from Act 250, provided the municipality applies for that in the future after the regional plan is approved by the LURB, and that municipality meets certain requirements in statute. Just want to reground you in those categories. With centers, our village centers in our downtown centers. As I noted before, there's just a concern about the lack of existing compact development in some of these centers. I noted a few on Shelburne Road in particular, and the lack of civic or historic resources in some of our centers. In some cases, they're just saying make these areas planned growth areas instead, and sometimes they're saying make them transition. We flagged 5 municipalities here where we have some questions about centers, and we've begun to work with those municipalities about how to resolve those issues. In Essex, for example, their downtown center may go away, just might become planned growth area. Burlington, they're asking to combine a few different centers. In Shelburne and South Burlington, we may lose a center or 2, make it planned growth area, or another category. We need to decide how we're going to move forward. Next category is planned growth areas. Again, I noted planned growth areas have been flagged as being very large. There is some discussion at the LURB about the kind of connection between the planned growth areas and the centers via complete streets. In some areas that we thought might be flagged, like frankly the Southeast Quadrant in South Burlington, it's all okay. In other areas of South Burlington, it's not so much okay, particularly along Shelburne Road. And so there is also this bigger question of planned growth areas because they're required to be mixed use and planned for high density development or residential development. Like how much geography can we include that are really employment centers where residential uses are not allowed? And so this is a particular concern along the Shelburne Road and Williston Road corridors in Shelburne, South Burlington, and Williston. And so we're starting to have conversations. We were in Williston actually last night at the Planning Commission talking to them about how to address the LURB's comments related to that employment center versus a true mixed use space and what those boundaries could and should be. Next, moving on to village areas. These areas typically have water or wastewater or soils. Some LURB comments again about the size, about connectivity to centers. Colchester, notably, Colchester's got a really great bike ped network, but there's a lot of long distances between village areas and centers, so that we might lose a little bit of village area in Colchester, for example. But mostly advisory recommendations in this category. Overall, I feel like we've done a really good job with village areas. Lastly, in terms of areas, our rural areas, it's really 4 categories: hamlets, rural general, ag forestry, and conservation. A lot of advisory comments here. Some nitpicky comments about how we're mapping road rights of way. We're going to work through that. A reminder to map river corridors and shoreline as rural conservation whenever possible. We're going to do that. Some advisory recommendations about specific properties. We're going to mull on that with the municipalities that are impacted. And they didn't particularly like how we map rural general in areas with forest blocks. They want to see more smoothing of making those areas rural general instead of having pockets of, rural conservation instead of having pockets of rural general. I think we're going to stick with what we've got because it's an advisory recommendation. The thing I want to note with all these comments from the LURB is on the next slide, we're trying to figure out how to interact with the Land Use Review Board moving forward. Right now it's set up in a way where we complete this pre-application process, and then we talk to the LURB again after the board has approved the plan. And so we don't talk to the LURB again until, let's say, May or June. And we've really stressed to the Land Use Review Board in December that we need to have some interaction, particularly about these tricky spots on Shelburne Road and Williston Road. And so the LURB's talking amongst themselves about how that can happen. And we hope those conversations are fruitful and we can bring back more information to the board and the Long Range Planning Committee in the next couple of weeks. Here, we just want to provide you with some dates about what's happening moving forward. Long Range Planning Committee, thanks to Ben, Andy, Karen, Dana. Hopefully I'm not missing anyone, but those folks have been sticking it out with us, showing up, providing us really great feedback about how to proceed. They're going to meet 4 more times, hopefully just 4 more times, to talk about how to edit the plan to comply with the LURB's comments and the public comments that we received tonight. And then in terms of the board, we're going to keep you kind of up to date monthly, but we don't really expect any heavy action until at least March in terms of reviewing edits, perhaps April. In April, we'll ask you to warn that second public hearing. We'll hold it in May, hopefully adopt the plan that night, and then we'll pursue going to the LURB to get that final approval. Any questions on the LURB comments or how we're moving forward before we open the public hearing?
Taylor, it's Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
A couple of process questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is it your feeling, and I'm sure you're talking to other RPCs, are some of those issues along Williston and Shelburne Road endemic to just Chittenden County, or do they have those kinds of Route 7 problems in Rutland, Route 2 problems in Central Vermont, and Route 100 problems in other areas, and Route 4 problems in the southern part of the state? Or is this a Chittenden County problem?
Good question. Rutland RPC and Northwest RPC, Franklin and Grand Isle counties are our 2 other RPC partners going through this process right now. I want to go back and look at Rutland's comments. I feel like Northwest is in pretty good shape on their comparable routes of Route 7. So I have questions about consistency. Not trying to point any fingers in a negative way, but and I don't want to hurt Northwest either, but I do have questions there. Rutland's running into some issues, Killington Access Road, for example, where they're going to have to make some changes that maybe are more comparable to what we're dealing with in our region. But I'm not quite sure yet, Jeff. I'm not quite sure.
Taylor, if I can jump in on that one, Jeff, definitely Rutland did get a similar comment, but interestingly, St. Albans did not. So it's not just our region. And you're right, it is these state highway strip development areas they're struggling with.
And then my follow-up is, if you don't mind me asking a follow-up before everybody else goes, was the lack of recourse after the LURB makes its decision an intentional design of the enabling legislation, or was it an oversight? And can we get that fixed before we have no way to push back on the LURB when they start to disallow some of these centers that the communities want to have, that they have in their town plans, that the LURB is overriding?
So this is in reference to the fact that the LURB decision is not appealable, correct?
That's correct. And I just didn't know whether, I wanted to know, I mean, Charlie sat there while this was going on. Was that intentional?
Yes, that was intentional to not have it get into the court system on these maps, really, and just to kind of leave it as more of an administrative process. So the recourse, there's two things, and I don't blame the LURB. I think it's really the statutory language that they're working with is where the issue is. And so that is, we have been in conversation with and have some language that we're working with and talking to legislators to see if we can get action in this session or not. So there is the issue has been identified and we are working to address it.
Got it. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Garrett?
Thank you. I would thank you for asking some of those questions, Jeff. They were on the tip of my tongue. I guess in hearing how all this is going is why do we bother having a regional planning commission, or for that matter, why do we bother having town planning commissions? Why don't we just tell the state, okay, you guys do it all and we'll do whatever you say, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I do believe in some oversight, but I also believe strongly in local control on how people want their communities to grow. And I realize I'm representing Buell's Gore and none of this is really affecting Buell's Gore to speak of, although some does. But I find this offensive.
Yeah, and just when I looked at the situation, and Garrett, you're right, from that perspective, this is really the first time the state is actually getting a clear sense of what is in town plans. You know, there's never been a process really where the state looks at the town plans, except for, maybe discrete, investment decisions or something like, is that in your town plan? Okay. And so this is the first time they're actually looking at it on a map. And while we were instructed, let's do bottoms up and work with our communities to develop this map, the legislature also put in some statutory state, I think they even refer to them as guardrails, and that's where the rub is right now. I do think we're getting some clarity on some language that would help bring the two together in a more supportive of the local government way.
That's good to hear. I mean, one thing I did think of that does apply in Buell's Gore and in many other rural communities is the mix of the rural classifications. On the ground, there are mixes. And for example, in the Gore with the McCullough Turnpike right away, it makes for an ugly looking map because the state owns all this land that we have no control over. And the last thing we need is them jumping our case for something over which we have no control. So I'm really, really hoping that we do get a chance to react back. Hearing that it is possible that this was on purpose, that we not get to respond, really bugs me.
I
Thank
think
you.
it was
I'll
just
shut
not
up
that
now.
well thought out, Garrett. Honestly, I don't think anything nefarious about that. I do think the LURB has shown a willingness to talk to us and want to adjust the process to work with us. And so I am encouraged by that. But otherwise, I hear you, Garrett. I hear you.
Thank you. I'm done now.
Tess, did you have anything to add?
I mean, Jeff and Garrett mostly covered what I had to say, but I just find it very frustrating that they would push back against that part of the plan and like saying it's because of the statutory language when I thought sort of one of the overarching goals was of the laws that have been written was to try and mix the use areas. So trying to, push back against us saying like, oh, well, let's make this more of a mixed use area where there's transportation infrastructure and all of this is just incredibly frustrating to me because it feels like that's a move that gets in the way of us achieving the goals that I thought they wanted us to achieve.
Agree. I've worked through most of that frustration already, Tess, but I agree with you.
Not to mention, Taylor and Tess, that we got some educational thing that isn't even in our purview to do that has to be added. I mean, did they forget we're not a school district? That we don't have anything to do with vocational training and stuff like that?
Yeah, confusing too. Is there? I don't know.
Just to that point, I think the reality is right now that Title 24, Chapter 117, which contains all the state planning goals, is getting to a point where it's a little old, a little dated. We've kind of just been adding brick by brick different stuff, and it's probably due for a little bit of a cleanup about what really are the planning goals that we have control over as municipalities and RPCs versus other parts of the public sector. But I hear you on that too. We're going to add more meat on the bone to address the LURB comment. As a board, I would not be worried about it.
We're taking valuable staff resources away from things that we should be doing to do something that is an artifact of an outdated statute.
I can't disagree with that, Jeff. Any other comments before we move on to the public hearing? All right, so we're going to move on to the public hearing. There are a couple members of the public here. I just ask that folks try to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, please. Additional comments, I'll take those in writing, hopefully by tonight. If it's tomorrow morning, I won't tell anyone. We'll take those too. Please try to keep your comments focused on the plan itself. It's a pretty broad plan, so you've got a lot of runway to work with. And I just want to repeat too that any comments we receive tonight, we're going to respond to in writing over the next couple of weeks. I can't give you an exact date yet. It really depends on what we receive and how we need to respond. And so with that,
Madam
Jackie,
Chair,
I'll
I
ask...
move we open the public hearing on the ECOS regional plan.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Jeff.
This is
And thank
Garrett.
you. Thank you, Garrett. You read my mind, Jeff. So
Any
members
discussion,
of the
right?
public.
Any discussion and a vote, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
have a
That's right.
motion on the
Yes.
table.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. You should be sitting right next to me. All right. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't see or hear anyone. Say aye or raise your hand if you're opposed. Okay. The public hearing is now open. And if you have your hand up, I have difficulty seeing
I will let you know if
everybody.
anybody raises their hand, Jackie.
Okay.
Chuck, do you want to resume?
Yeah.
Sure. My name's Chuck Lacey. I live in Jericho Center, which is one of the 3 town centers in Jericho. I've lived there for almost 40 years, raised 3 children there. I also farmed in numerous places in Jericho. I'd like to make the case that the map is too restrictive, particularly with respect to multifamily housing. Jericho has had a regime of exclusionary zoning for 50 years, which has transformed the town from basically a cow town, a rural town, into probably your most elite town in Chittenden County, just based on the statistics. I believe your plan would have worked in 1965, but the town centers and the village areas have been built up in a way with a land use pattern that is going to make it very difficult to add additional housing. The bulk of it is in neighborhoods with houses on half an acre, three-quarters of an acre, 1 acre, with a house right in the middle. To add new housing there involves a homeowner deciding they want an additional house in their front yard or their backyard. They have to get the financing to do it. They need to get the know-how to do it, an architect, and they have to want to live with an additional person, additional family on their lot. I asked the staff here for examples of where substantial housing has been added to neighborhoods like this. And the staff here, did not have an example, which, didn't surprise me. In addition to that settlement pattern, and I've been through the land records in Jericho, there's over 500 homes in Jericho that are participating in neighborhood contracts, either HOAs or deeded restrictive covenants, which ban anything other than single family homes. No ADUs, no duplexes, no triplexes, no fourplexes. So I think the possibility of substantial new housing in the village centers is quite low. Outside the village centers, Jericho has used exclusionary zoning to really reserve most of town for the wealthy. And I'll just give you a couple examples. This is a photograph of a triplex that's on Route 2 in Waterbury. A triplex like this is currently illegal in 70% of Jericho.
Yeah.
And this is
Maybe.
We're not able to
There
see
you
it.
go.
There,
There.
yeah, that's,
Go
well, it
Or
was.
Melanie, maybe you can hold it for him, since it seems
Yeah, I
a lot
know,
of
because
focus
it's
on you.
on me.
okay.
Yeah, right. There you go.
So this is a typical home that's built in Jericho, sold for $1.3 million. The median price of a new home in Jericho built in 2025 is well over $800,000. And Jericho's banning of multifamily housing in most of Jericho means that this is what we're getting. We're getting developments of $8 or $9 million homes with somewhere between 35 and 45 bedrooms. At the same time, this here is, okay, this is, anyway, this is a collection of condos here. On 1 acre, 8 condos in 1 acre. This happens to be in Jericho, in one of the village areas. Homes like this, 2 or 3 bedrooms, which currently sell for $400,000, are illegal in 86% of Jericho. So this is what we're getting. What the select board and the local interpretation of smart growth in Jericho is to reserve most of town for the wealthy, with an expectation that middle and low income people are going to live in the village centers where there's very little housing built. And I think this is it's cruel. It's just simply not fair. The excuses are ridiculous. If you have wastewater for 45 bedrooms of $1 million homes, a community wastewater system for 45 bedrooms of $1 million homes, you have water and wastewater available for a cluster of condos. That's just a lame excuse. And Jericho right now is, in terms of local control, Jericho is so extreme in its wealth. I mean, we have the lowest percentage of children eligible for free and reduced lunch in Vermont. Our high school has lost almost 40% of its students. And the reason is not that rich women have fewer children. It's that we don't have many women of childbearing age. In Chittenden County, we have the same number of women in their 30s and 60s. In Jericho, we have twice as many women in their 60s as in their 30s. People in their 30s who are forming families simply can't afford to get a place in Jericho. And that housing is going to be multifamily housing. And we need more places where we can build efficient, dense clusters of housing. It is ridiculous that multifamily housing in Jericho is illegal along Route 117. This cluster of $9 million homes has a driveway that enters onto Route 15. And this is a place where it's illegal to build multifamily housing. Jericho has 5 luxury home developments under construction right now, all with either 8 or 9 homes. In every single one of those locations, the same number of houses built in a multifamily situation are illegal based on Jericho's zoning. We can't even see low-income people or middle-income people from Jericho anymore. So when I look, we have 5 people on our housing committee, 7 people on our planning commission, 5 people on our select board. Only 2 of us, including me, live in a place where a triplex can be permitted and built. We can't even see the people that might live in the type of housing that I feel we need. We need more areas in Jericho where we can build multifamily housing, dense multifamily housing. And my concern is, and again, we have the HOAs dominate the area where you say you want additional housing with the restrictive covenants. You added new land to the map in terms of the development area. You added the high school ball fields, 2 exclusive developments that are already built with large conserved areas having to do with their PUD. That's simply not a realistic addition of housing potential. So my fear is that our select board will continue to interpret your plan as a justification for exclusionary zoning. You must let us build multifamily housing in more places.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Others?
Nora, do you have any public comment? No pressure if you don't.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts are around the Shelburne Use Corridor. And I know that that was just raised around Lurb but in terms of the density that's planned in the mixed use, one of the things that, and I don't know what the Regional Planning Committee can really do about this, but one of the things when I look at that map, that's a concern for me is that if we put a lot of housing, as housing grows in that area, there's not a lot of green space. And I know that the state, basically the state's in charge of Route 7, right? And so the South Burlington would have to work with the state around a lot of what happens. Is that correct?
In terms of the road itself, yeah.
Overall itself. But and I don't know what support or
They don't control the zoning. It's still local zoning.
okay.
Right.
And in Shelburne, for example, you can either use local zoning or you use form-based code. But if you use form-based code, you got to build commercial on the bottom and housing on top and put it within 40 feet of a road that has 15,000 cars, 25,000 cars a day. So
Well,
It's going to,
And
I
I'm
mean,
sorry, Jeff,
a lot
Jeff,
of it's local.
and I'm sorry, Jeff, I don't want this to turn into a back and forth. We just want to hear from the public, and then.
Well, she asked the question, which could be done.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
and-
Charlie. This is to hear from the public, and the board we can interact after we close the public hearing.
Yeah. And I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. And then regarding the document, I don't have any other sort of comments on it. I emailed Tyler earlier, so.
Great. Thank you very much. And in terms of members of the public, Tom Darenthal?
Yeah,
You-
hi. Is it okay to talk about transportation, or is that something later?
Absolutely. No, that's all part of the plan.
Okay, I guess my concern is that the UVM Health Center, all right, in Burlington is planning a major expansion between now and 2032. All right. They're talking about adding a couple hundred beds and needing an additional number of employees in the neighborhood of maybe 900. And I'm wondering how engaged the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission is to try to figure out how to get those people to that location and to work, and out of that location when they're not working.
Tom, thanks for bringing that to our attention. I had not heard that
Yeah,
yet. And, that will go through Act 250, I expect, and traffic impact studies will be done. So that'll be addressed through the permitting process. But I'll reach out to the medical center to get a sense of what's going on, because I had not heard about that being in the works.
Charlie, I've got a name for you, and I will email that
Oh, great.
either tonight or tomorrow.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that comment as well? So there's a lot of more planned growth on Tilley Drive, to be more specific, and there currently isn't a lot of bus service. So it's not just also about employees, but there isn't bus service for patients who don't have transportation. So and so SSTA works with Medicaid to do vans, but there isn't hardly any at all bus service down this way.
Yeah. Thank you. Nolan, did you have a public comment here?
Yeah, sorry I'm calling in late. I was watching the Town Meeting TV. I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I just wanted to give some extra comments. I talked with Taylor and attended the long range planning committee meeting and gave some comments ahead of time and commented on the draft. So anyway, first of all, thank you so much for having great, at least from my perspective, great public outreach and organization around this whole thing. And that whole process has been really easy, and talking to the CCRPC has been very easy. So thank you for doing all of that. The main comments that are also reflected in the draft, comments that I and a bunch of other people I know made, are that we were concerned about the population estimates that are included. It's kind of in the beginning of the document, but it looks like it's the same table from the 2018 plan, and it seems very unrealistic because it goes from like 161,000 people population in 2015, I think, to 183,000-ish in Chittenden County in 2050. And that seems very unrealistic because we're already at 171,000. So we're almost already halfway there, and we're only 10 years in. So that seems like it should be updated somehow.
Agreed.
I don't know how these projections are done, but and I don't know if that gets reflected in the housing counts. I don't know what data was used for that. I probably just didn't read it closely enough, but in my perspective and the perspective of some people that I also know who live in Chittenden County, those numbers could be higher for proposed housing goals. So I think I would just express that. And then the other things that we wanted to express are that at least, and I said I've talked already too much about this, so I'll try to keep it short. Just concrete goals with timelines, so that we can measure progress accurately, and be ambitious about these goals. So, like, a thing that I like to think about is if our goals include modal shift in transportation, then something like having a certain amount of infrastructure built for that modal shift by a certain date would be helpful, I think. I would love to see the major communities in and around Burlington connected by isolated, protected bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in 10 years, say, something like that. Currently, we have a very disconnected network. One of my somewhat snide comments, apologize for that, was that, you know, in the bike network we have we have disconnected protected infrastructure like a bike path, and then it turns into nothing, or a bike lane. We have sidewalks that just end. If you had a road that just ended and wasn't connected to another road, nobody would use it. And so that's kind of the reality. I like to use Williston Road as an example. We just have random sections of sidewalks. If there's any mechanism in this plan to say, like, if we're doing a project, we need to actually have connection and use those dollars to make, even if it's just 500 feet between what's existing and what's getting updated, if to make that connection for active transportation, I think that would be nice. So just stuff like that. We would like to be specific and ambitious regarding those things. And that's all I'll say for now. And I appreciate you taking these comments and the written comments. And I'm really impressed by other people's comments tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Nolan.
And two more people potentially. Deb Sachs, did you want to offer comment? Sorry, I'm guessing it. Who might want to offer comment here? Nobody's raising their hand, so I will push.
Thanks. Deb Sachs. I actually live in Charlotte, and I have a relationship with the RPC. And I just want to thank everybody for all the hard work on this. This is huge. And I don't really have any specific comments, but this represents a lot of work. And thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Here to observe.
Thank you, Deb. And Michael Chaucer, did you just plugged in? Were you hoping to provide comment here in the public hearing on the regional plan?
No, sir. I just keeping myself up to date here on progress.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I don't see any other members of the public that might offer comment.
I don't know if I can be a member of the public.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. You all live here.
Right. I do, I guess, from Philip Peterson, Senior Transportation Engineer and Planner with the City of Burlington. I guess thinking about the city is preparing to launch Plan BTV 2050, which is Burlington's next comprehensive planning effort. CCRPC is involved in that for sure, major funder of the mobility element, the transportation planning element. And so just thinking about how this initiative includes four major components: the comprehensive plan, which is an update to the city's master plan, has to be done every 8 years. The economic development strategy, which is unprecedented work for the city of Burlington, an update to the parks master plan, and then Plan BTV mobility, or the transportation plan. So this work is kind of happening. And the contract with our consultant team was approved last night at City Council. Just thinking about how we can make sure, one of the big themes that the mayor talked about last night when this was approved is making sure that city staff are not working in silos. And we're not, we're not working in silos. We're working as a team, parks and office of city planning, and CEDO, the Community Economic Development Office, and then of course folks from Public Works. We're all working lockstep together. So how do we make sure that we're integrating an effort like the regional plan here with this kind of work, where we're updating this major planning effort, which we're also trying to integrate so many other plans. And we, Plan BTV Walk Bike, Plan BTV Due North End, Plan BTV South End, all these different planning efforts. So all this work is done and is out there. So I guess I would just encourage us to think about, as city planners and engineers, as we're engaging in these projects, and Nolan is part of the Walk Bike Council, and I stole his book. You get your book back, Nolan? I hope you did. His comments aren't lost on me at all when we think about network connectivity, and how we want to engage with the public and make sure that projects are meaningful and we're not doing work in silos. So I guess that's just my comment.
Thank you.
I think that's it. Those comments were all excellent, and we appreciate the public attending the meeting. And I'm having a fire alarm go off in my little house, I think. Sorry, I don't think there's a real fire. I think it's just a smoke detector that's very sensitive. So may I have a motion to close the public hearing? I see Garrett raising your hand in a second.
I'll second that. Or
Okay.
Andy.
Okay. Andy, or I think Andy was first, Chris. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, either raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anyone opposed to closing the public hearing? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing on the regional plan to be closed right now. Number 5 on the staff introductions. Number 5 on the agenda is staff introductions, and the first person we are going to hear from is Darren Schibler, who is a senior planner and project manager. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for the introduction. It's been about a year since I've done one of these, so hopefully I remember how to do it. As Jackie mentioned, I'm a senior planner. I've been with CCRPC for just over 3 years. I am on the land use side, so I work on just about everything except for transportation projects. So that may include working on the regional plan, working with our municipalities on updating their municipal plans and zoning bylaws, doing a couple of special projects in terms of housing. I also spend a lot of time working with Dan Albrecht on our Brownfields program. So we've been working to stand up our revolving loan program, as well as continue our assessment grants for remediation of contaminated sites. And a couple of things that are coming up for me. Oh, sorry, one more main element of my work is doing GIS, working on town plan maps, doing a little bit of work on the regional map. And right now, my biggest project will be working with the City of Essex Junction on their comprehensive plan update, and also working on our infill housing campaign with our 4 cities, Burlington, South Burlington, Winooski, and Essex Junction, to promote infill housing, which is areas of existing development and allowing for multi-unit or accessory dwelling units in areas that are already built out. So similar to what Chuck Lacey was talking about earlier, trying to find ways to make those projects happen. That's pretty much the scope of my work. Happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Any questions for Darren? Anyone? Thanks, Darren.
I have one. He made a cut when we talked about cats earlier when we were just before the meeting started. he smiled. So how many cats does he have?
You just missed the 2 cats here. They started to come up to say hi, but then they're now off carousing. And we also have 2 dogs and let's see, we have 21 birds, chickens and ducks, and 5 goats on our farm in Essex, right across from Chapin Orchard.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
They won't join the meeting, but you're all welcome to come say hi anytime, especially during apple season.
I think they keep you busy, all those animals. Yeah. Thanks for asking that, Catherine.
You're welcome.
So our second staff member is kind of sad because it's Eleni Churchill. And
oh, Jackie, I hope it's not sad.
Well, we're gonna miss you, Eleni, and I'm not sure everyone knows that you have announced. I'll let you talk about it. But first, introduce yourself.
Well, I will introduce myself and then I will make an announcement. So, hello everyone, Eleni Churchill. I'm the Transportation Program Director here. I'm approaching probably 10 years in this position. I don't know how time flies. Just a little bit of a background for me, and then I'll just circle back to what I do as a transportation program, director. So I am originally from Cyprus. I came to this country many years ago to study engineering. I got my civil engineering degree from Drexel, bachelor's and master's from Clemson, and then I moved to Vermont. And I got a job with the Vermont Agency of Transportation, where I worked for 12 years, maybe 13. I don't remember now. I started as a traffic engineer there, and then I moved into planning, and I did a lot of policy and policy plans there. And then in 2007, I moved to then CCMPO, which merged with the CCRPC in, was it 2011, Charlie? Or yes. So I was hired as a transportation planner engineer, and I did a lot of the corridor studies, scoping studies, and all sorts of different studies when I first came here. I also worked on the circle alternatives process for many years, and it was an incredible work that we did for that. And then right about 2015, 16, I got this job after Michelle left. And as a transportation program director, I manage the transportation program in the CCRPC, which is, it grew tremendously in the last few years, but we still have the same staff number that we had 4 years ago. Right now, we are approximately 7 million. Maybe Charlie will correct me on that, maybe 6.5. So it was a lot less, I would say, 4 years ago. So we have a lot of work to do. I also, in addition to basically managing the program as, in the whole, which is 100 plus tasks and projects and activities, I manage and I work with 7 transportation staff, planners and engineers. This is an incredible team and a professional people that I really have the privilege to work with. So together, all of us, we manage, I manage the program, we manage projects for municipalities, we also manage our partners, we provide technical assistance to our municipalities, from anything, small questions on a phone call to actually things that become, studies with counts and everything else. And we basically, try to promote and achieve our MTP goals. We also do a lot of we either do the MTP, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is our regional plan. We actually do in-house, and we do a number of other policy plans, the TDM plan, which is the one that we just finished. We're going to bring in another plan to you next month, which is the Regional Safety Action Plan. So we've been busy. So with that, I'm gonna basically end saying that I will miss all of you, and I will miss, first of all, my team and the entire team at the CCRPC when I retire at the end of this fiscal year, end of June. So that's all I had for you. Do you have any questions? Thank you, Deb.
Anyone have any? Oh, Dana.
Oh, Dana.
I just want to say thank you. You've been such
You're
a joy
welcome.
to work with over the years, and you've done such a great job. And
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dana. I think we all agree. All of us on the board who have worked with Eleni agree.
My question to
will miss
Lady
you.
is there still nothing that we can do to talk you out of it?
Not right now, Jeff. Not right now. Thank you, though.
I would just add that it has been an honor and a privilege to work with you. And I think that thing that I appreciate working with you the most is you have the ability to just cut through the crap. And just, you know what I'm saying?
Very elegantly
Yeah,
said.
I mean, just the pies in the sky. Philip, no pies in the sky. We have to have something that makes sense, and I always appreciated that. And yeah.
Well, I still have like 6 months to go, so I'll
Yeah.
be around. So,
Right.
okay, I'm
And,
not
and-
leaving
and we will
tomorrow.
come back to this topic in June. So,
Oh dear.
and we really do appreciate all that Eleni has done for the staff and for our communities and for the region in general and for the state. So thank you, Eleni.
Thank you.
I got one thing to say to Eleni. We're gonna miss the mascot dog. My God, that dog! I love that dog. He's my therapy dog. Like
I'll bring her to visit, Bruce. I'll bring her to visit.
There you go. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, moving on. The draft minutes of the November 19th, 2025 board meeting. Can I have a motion to approve? Are there
I'll
any
move approval.
changes? Okay, Catherine, any changes? Any corrections?
I'm either losing my touch or all the AI and all the people are paying more attention, so it's harder to catch anything.
I didn't find any either.
And neither did I.
And I'm sorry for the minutes taker. Catherine, did you second that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was Chris, and then Catherine.
Got it.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 19th, 2025, signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
See a lot of hands up. Any opposition to approving the minutes? I see one hand up by Chuck Wilson. Is that, you don't mean to have it up, I guess. Okay. All right. So the minutes have been approved. So moving on to item number 7 on the agenda is committee appointments to Brownfields and TAC. And I'm guessing that's you, Charlie. There's no.
Yeah. There's just we had a couple vacancies that occurred as a result of retirement at GBIC, and we're kind of halfway through the fiscal year, so are asking you to make an appointment of Alex. I hope Alex Demily to fill the seats that Sam Anderson previously filled.
So can I have do we need someone to put that in the form of a motion?
I guess that would be easiest. Our appointment process is a little convoluted in our bylaws, so
yeah,
that covers our bases for sure.
I'll move we approve Alex Demily, Vice President of GBIC, to fill the vacancy that we have with.
Thank you, Jeff. And it looks like Garrett seconded.
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposition? I'm seeing a lot of hands up. I think the motion passes.
And
So,
just a note
yes.
for the minute taker, Ben, was I noting that you wanted to abstain from the minutes vote?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I wanted to abstain.
Thanks.
I wasn't able to attend in November, and so I didn't feel I was in a position to determine what was said or not said. So.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Ben. Sorry I missed that.
Oh, no.
Okay. Number 8 is FY 2026 budget and UPWP mid-year adjustment. Forrest or Charlie?
I guess I'll take this and start off, and Forrest will back me up if we get too detailed. So there's really 2 documents. One is really long and really has a lot of really small print. The UPWP, and for those of you that are newer, that's the Unified Planning Work Program. So that's our annual work program. The board adopts it in May, and every January we do this, what we call a mid-year adjustment. We update it, and it's really just kind of reconciling, by this time we know like how many funds carried over for individual projects. So that's up to date in this. And then there's always some projects that come in or out for a wide variety of reasons. And so there's a if you go through that long table, and there's a legend at the outset, but things in pink are projects that are deleted. Typically, those are because maybe shifting priorities in a town, or there may sometimes be a grant that we thought we might get at the beginning, or 10 months ago that didn't come through. Then there's light blue tasks, which are new land use projects or non-transportation projects. Light green are new transportation projects. And yellow may just highlight a pending project. There's still a couple of those that are pending grants out there. And I'm not going to, I like you all, I'm not going to walk you through row by row. Are there any questions though on any of the changes that you see in there, any of those color-coded lines or cells, or any questions in general about the work program? And I'm going to switch to the budget in a moment. I'm not seeing any questions on the work program. Okay. And the budget, if it's okay, I'm going to actually share just to, because I'm going to reference some individual lines here. So this was a separate attachment on the webpage. Just a couple things to note. The regional planning line on line 4 here is just reconciled. There is, this also includes a small cut of 1.3% that is proposed in the Budget Adjustment Act that's in front of the legislature right now. They typically act on that in February. So there's, I think we got about a $15,000 cut. You'll see that line is increasing by about 15,000, but that's just as we kind of get the accurate numbers for what it is. It was 30,000 more than we thought, so it's net 15,000. Other significant things, row 15, the shared municipal policy advisor. There was hopes that 3 towns were going to kick in $25,000 for more direct assistance from Ann Nelson. And as it's played out, it's turned into 2 towns with 10,000 each. So that is just reconciled to what the actual budget is. And then moving on, you see on the MPO transportation staff funding line, row 22, significant decrease, 185,000. Actually, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger to make it easier. 185,000 reduction. Most of that change is due to us being able to get approval from Federal Transit Administration to charge staff to this RAISE grant, Northwest Vermont TOD. So, 2/3 of that 180 is just a shift in the funding source of staff time, and then other dynamics of just people working on other projects, or we've also had a little bit of family medical leave time this year. Most of the board members know we've had a bit of a baby boom. I think four babies in the last 24 months, some pretty close to that. And so, we're having a little bit more leave time associated with that. And then a couple tasks here in pink that grant funding did not come through with, rows 40 and 41 here. A new stormwater project here on row 52, but small dollars. And then I highlighted row 59 here, the Emergency Management Performance Grant. You can see this somewhat significant reduction of like $25,000 a reduction. This is really tied up. This is, a potential impact from federal government decisions. So this is kind of just tied up in Homeland Security and FEMA, and the state is negotiating with them. So I took a pretty conservative view of that and just assumed that we would not get a new grant this year for that work that has been going on for 20 or 30 years with the state emergency management department. And so anyway, just note that this is a probably pretty conservative budget in terms of revenue. Having said all that, the bottom line, our operating budget, which pays our staff and office expenses, is virtually the same as it was before, 3.8 million. About $7.5 million passing through us to consultants or other subgrantees, and a total budget of 11.3 million. Any questions on those revenue lines or anything on this page? I'm going to switch over then to the expense side. And on the expense side, the direct project 7.5 million carries right on. And then you can see most, our largest expense, of course, salaries and benefits. Salaries are fairly level, just some pretty modest changes. Benefits is the biggest thing, where, and mostly this is attributable to health insurance. So no shock. We've been able to mitigate health insurance impacts pretty well, but looking at a 7% increase this year. So that was a driver there. And everything else we pretty much left the same. But those revenue decreases I mentioned, have a result here that this is a negative budget I'm presenting to you, which I've not done in a long time. But also this is not the truth. So the reality of our situation, we will end up positive. I mentioned the health insurance. We are self-insured with a third-party administrator for health insurance. And we switched third-party administrators this past year and got a decent-sized check of about, I think, $92,000 of basically unexpended premiums that we had deposited with that third-party administrator. So that is going to come in and be net positive revenue to the organization. So we will end up net positive, but I also didn't want to put my too rosy of glasses on and present that to you as if there aren't other issues going on here. So, there are, so this is my way of signaling a little bit of concern. We'll see how the FY27 budget shakes out over the next few months as the work program committee reviews applications and we talk to agencies and the legislature does their work. We'll see how the budget shakes out. So sorry, I'm like giving you a negative story and then saying just kidding, it's not as bad as it looks. But any questions on that, or did that raise any questions for anyone?
No, answers my questions.
No questions. Thank you, Catherine. And then at the bottom of the budget, not necessarily part of the budget, but we do have this little table down here. And for those of you that are newer to the budget, we have an indirect rate, which basically covers everything that can't be directly billed to an individual grant contract. And those get approved by the state every year. But what I really wanted to point out was just that the last 5 fiscal years and going back even 6 or 7 have been fairly positive years, around $80,000 a year positive. This year will be positive also. I don't think it'll be maybe plus 80, but maybe it'll be plus 40 or something. And next year, just kind of prepare you, we may have an offsetting negative year as we, kind of deal with changing dynamics, particularly from the federal government. So, and at the bottom, very bottom, you can see our cash balance as of last week, over $1.25 million in our accounts right now. Any questions on overall finances at the moment? Anything be helpful? Okay. Yeah, so with that, we do ask, I'll stop sharing and I'll let the chair ask for a motion.
A motion to approve so we're looking for a motion to approve the report on the 2026 budget and the UPWP mid-year adjustment. And it looked like Garrett. Oh, all right, Andy, and seconded by Garrett. I'm thinking. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Are there looks like most people put their hands up, but are there any disapproval? Any nays? Any nays? I don't see any, don't hear any. I guess you would do that if you were disapproving. So it looks like the motion has passed.
Thank you.
We're making our way. We're getting down there. So now we're on the draft number 9, draft stipend policy, and we'll ask, I think, Ann Nelson to give us a little bit of a presentation about the proposed changes in the policy.
Thanks, Jackie. Nice to see you all. I'm going to walk through an updated stipend policy for CCRPC. I'm going to share my screen and just walk through the memo together. If I have to dip out before I get through this conversation because of my 1-year-old who's past his bedtime, I will pass it to Charlie and Emma, but I'm hopeful that I can get through this. So this is the memo with some background and context around this stipend policy. So CCRPC is beginning the process of updating our public participation plan as a whole, and this stipend policy is kind of one piece of that puzzle and the first one that we're tackling. We are updating this policy. We have updated it so far to reflect current best practices. So this research has been going on for a couple of years now to inform this policy. Many Chittenden County residents care deeply about their towns, cities, and the region and have really rich lived experiences and want to contribute their time, knowledge, and passion to public processes, but not everyone has the same ability to volunteer. As we know, there are barriers such as time, financial constraints, childcare, or transportation that can make participation really difficult or impossible for some. And this leads to disproportionate input and decision-making by people with flexible schedules, higher incomes, and fewer obstacles to engagement. Stipends are a tool. They definitely don't solve the issue, but they're a tool to help address those barriers, working towards ensuring that participation is more accessible to a wider range of residents. So in doing this as an organization, CCRPC is affirming that all voices are valued in shaping the region's future, and we want to engage with a representative population. Some background, our public participation plan was last updated in 2014 with a few amendments in 2017, so it's in pretty dire need of some new language. There was an interim stipend policy that was approved in 2014. And so since then, CCRPC has been issuing $50 stipends for participation in committee meetings or meetings to participate in projects or programs. The budget implications thus far, we've only been tracking stipends given out for the past few years, and so since 2023, CCRPC has spent an average of $750 a month on stipends. It's important to note that this amount includes stipends given out for ECOS engagement, and that was a pretty heavy lift with a lot of engagement, a lot of stipends given out throughout that process. So it might be a higher than normal amount. It might not moving forward, depending on the level of engagement we're doing. There's a note there that, as in the policy, recommends that we update that amount to $75 per meeting instead of $50. If that were so, the average monthly spending for the organization would be roughly $1,100 a month. We are allowed to give out stipends under Federal Highway Administration or with Federal Highway Administration funding. They've outlined in their public participation practices that stipends are allowable when participation would otherwise be inadequate or unrepresented or unrepresentative without compensation, and or when the stipend or incentive would help ensure adequate and representative participation. So just to note that this is an allowable practice. I won't walk through the evidence here, but there is a good amount of research out there that backs stipends helping to support more participation in public processes and in urban planning in particular, or regional planning. So again, it's not a fix-all. There's obviously other barriers and other ways that we as staff can work to make sure we have representative engagement and participation. It's just one tool. And then below, there's a couple of tables, and this is mostly just documenting some research and practices from partner organizations or towns. So that first table here is stipend amounts that other municipalities or the state are giving out, just for reference. I will note there's a mistake in this table. It says that the town of Essex gives out $138 per meeting for their development review board, and that's not true. I'm not actually sure where that number came from. It's $50 per meeting. But you'll see that pretty much across the board, it's $50 per meeting, other than Winooski has begun bumping that number up to $75 per meeting, and they've even thought about increasing it to $150 depending on workload for different committees or engagement activities. So our proposal of $75 is higher than a lot of the municipalities in Chittenden County and the state, but the state is also in the process of updating their policy. Their policy was established back in the 80s and 90s. And as a part of the environmental justice bill, all state agencies have to come up with community engagement plans that are agency specific. So my guess is that that number will be revisited for state engagement as well. And so this is kind of an opportunity for CCRPC to be a bit on the cutting edge of this, as we were back in 2014. For other jurisdictions and organizations that I could find, and it was pretty hard to find specific amounts, it varies a lot. It's as low as $35 for an hour in Hillsboro, Oregon, all the way up to $75 to $100 per hour for organizations such as Race Forward. Seattle pays $75 an hour. LA metro area pays, up to $100 to $200 per meeting for their advisory bodies. So quite a lot of variation. But the takeaways being that it's essential for our work to be accessible to anybody and everybody in the region who wants to participate. Stipends are a tool to increase engagement and ensure that our work reflects the lived experiences of all community members. The policy clarifies the purpose of offering stipends, which activities are eligible for stipends, who is eligible to receive stipends, again, that funding source allowability, and then the amount to really account for inflation. Most of the bump from 50 to 75 can be accounted for just in inflation, and also to reflect best practices. So this is an action item. So we are hoping to get approval on this policy, but I'm just going to walk through the backbone kind of structure of the actual policy. I'm not going to go through it in detail. I'm going to assume that you all have looked at it. Again, the purpose, we list some reasons here that we've already covered. It's really increased engagement from communities we don't typically hear from. There's a section on allowability and language in within our funding sources, specifically the Department of Transportation. Eligibility. So you are eligible to receive a stipend only if you're not participating as a paid representative of an employer or an organization and are not otherwise being compensated for your time, and who may face one or more barriers to participation that would make it difficult to engage without compensation. There's a list of potential barriers. It could be financial hardship, transportation, childcare, technology barriers, but that list is not comprehensive. It could be another barrier. So it's kind of an opt-in. Participants will identify themselves as being eligible to receive a stipend. There's a note about municipal representatives being eligible to receive stipends as long as they meet the criteria above. We recognize that resources and practices differ across our municipalities. Regional committees often include municipal representatives who serve outside their regular jobs and on top of other local responsibilities. Because board and committee service is an added commitment, stipends can help acknowledge that extra time and hopefully also reduce some barriers to participation. A note about folks under the age of 18, and then ineligibility. So again, kind of other side of the same coin, you're not eligible to receive a stipend if you're representing a paid employer or another organization, or if you're being otherwise compensated for your time. And certainly consultants or contractors are compensated through separate agreements. Some note about W-9s and tax forms, which is just a threshold that we don't need to get into. Eligible activities. So stipends can be offered for participation in activities that require a significant time commitment, such as membership and participation in our board, membership and participation in a standing CCRPC committee, service on project-specific or topic-specific advisory committees or working groups, and participation in focus groups or workshops or other discussions or activities that are a part of our studies plans or projects. And then the actual policy essentially outlines the amounts. So this table you'll see on the left, how it is the community member is engaging, a description of that form of engagement, the typical time commitment, and the compensation amount. And this amount is, again, a bump from $50 for about an hour and a half of a community member's time up to $75 per meeting. And that amount, again, is just reflecting best practices and kind of emerging best practices from other organizations across Vermont and the country, reflects the current living wage, reflects recommendations from our Community Engagement Advisory Committee members, level of responsibility and skill, expertise, and experience required, the time commitment, including potential travel time, the emotional labor that is experienced by marginalized groups who contribute to CCRPC's work, and market rate for contractors that we might otherwise hire. So again, a way to value lived experiences of community members. And then I won't go into this procedure. This is more of an internal, a section for staff around what the process looks like for giving out stipends, and different options for paying community members. And that's about it. And there are 2 appendices, and these are forms that staff could use to get their opt-in forms. So forms that we would use to have people opt in or out of receiving stipends. I'm going to stop sharing and see if any questions came up or anything you all would like more clarity on.
I'll just say, and Nelson, you've clearly put a lot of time and effort into this proposal, so thank you for being so thoughtful about it.
Thanks, Jackie.
Anyone have questions? Looks like Mike O'Brien.
Yeah, and Nelson, thank you for that. Just question of the opt-in thing. Are you automatically opt-in, so you have to opt out, or vice versa?
Vice versa.
Okay.
You're automatically opted out. It actually, we thought about doing it the reverse, and because we wanted to be sensitive to, for folks to not have to like name that they have a need in front of other people. But I think if we're implementing this across the whole organization, it makes more sense to assume that everyone's opted out and then find thoughtful ways to get people to opt in. Yeah, using this form. Yeah, Scott.
Follow up to that question. It seems like though you might have to opt in for specific events, or do you just opt in one time?
You would just opt in. So the way that I've done it with our Community Engagement Advisory Committee, you opt in. I check in with folks every year. So that's a standing committee that meets every month. And I'll send an email out and check in with folks at the beginning of each year and see if anybody wants to change, whether they're opted in or out. And I will say, in my experience, people have been really respectful of the eligibility criteria. And I've had folks receive stipends for a year and then reach out and say that they don't feel like they need them anymore and they're ready to opt out. For like project engagement, if it were an ongoing work group or advisory group, you would opt in for as long as that project is ongoing. And obviously for a one-time focus group, it would just be a one-time opt-in. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks like Garrett has your hand up.
Actually, not a question so much as a comment that I think I think this is great and will be very useful. I think it's absolutely crucial that it be personal and private. Just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that, I mean, obviously the people writing the checks need to know, but other commissioners or members or whatever do not need to know.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Garrett. Thanks. Jeff, were you clapping your hands or were you raising your hand?
I was raising my hand.
Okay.
Because I think of all the members of the executive committee and the finance committee, I've been struggling with this since it was brought up. And it's not a reflection on Ann Nelson's work. It's not a lack of concern that we need to provide compensation to our underserved, low-income and overburdened communities. I'm fully on board with that. I'm concerned that the policy is too broad in terms of its focus. And I've always been of the belief that starting back in 2014, when we started down this road, that we're smart enough to be strategic about this. And I'm fearful that what's come out, and I'm not saying it's not well thought out, it's a lowest common denominator policy in search of a common problem that I don't believe exists in the organization. I thought we could have been more strategic. We could have reached out even more from the standpoint of, not even providing $50 or $75, but more to the low income, underserved and overburdened communities than what we're providing. And I'm concerned about taking it broadly, organization wide, undermining the volunteer culture that, at least since I've been involved with the RPC and the MPO for the last 25 years, has been very strong. That being said, even though I made it clear that I was going to oppose this at the full board meeting, I understand the need for it, but I want to register strong reservations about going organization wide. I'm not going to oppose it, even though I said that the last two times that we discussed it at the executive committee and the finance committee meeting. But I just want everybody to know that taking this broadly organization wide, particularly for the municipal members or for municipal members that are volunteers on some of our committees where all the work is done, that we are changing that culture. And I don't believe it's a positive change in culture. And I think it could have been more targeted, and it might have even been more useful to our underserved, low income and overburdened communities if we could have taken maybe some of the resources that may go to people who really don't need it. But I'm not going to say that somebody who doesn't need it is going to say that they're going to need it and take it. But we maybe could have focused our resources more towards those groups that were really trying to encourage to participate in our stuff. So that being said, I'm going to raise my hand, yes, but with a whole heck of a lot of concern.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Andy?
Yeah, the executive committee, as Jeff mentioned, did discuss, and finance discussed this at length and recommended approval to the board that it be approved. And so with that, I would move to approve the policy.
I'll second that, Andy.
Thank you, Chris.
And if I could just add a brief comment about what Jeff was saying. We did talk about that some, and in my own view, just one of the things that if you put a lot more oversight over this, the cost of the oversight, in my mind, is going to far exceed the cost of actually implementing it the way it's designed right now. And there's a lot of, this really puts on people, the way the policy is, puts on people you know, beyond the part where we hope that they're being honest. And if they're not, we can always go back and revisit it if we see that the policy is being abused. I think in the past it hasn't been, and I think a lot of municipalities, they do it different ways. It's not perfect, it's pointed out, it's not a perfect policy, but it's, I think, a really good one. And it's one I think will hopefully work and can always be, as I said, revisited if it doesn't.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments before we vote? Okay, then.
I would just say that I do appreciate Jeff's points because he is always the voice of caution and reason and targeted. He's the Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder to keep us from throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So, looking at the forward-thinking unintended consequences of things, and so I do applaud his perspective, and I value it. In this case, as Andy pointed out, we on the executive committee did thrash around with this and feel that this is the right move.
Thank you, Chris.
You're going to miss me.
Jackie, I have a question. I may have a.
Yeah, you're going to miss me when I'm gone, Chris.
So
Bruce,
I guess
listen.
my question is to. I guess I misunderstood some. I think was Jeff, or are you saying that the CAC are economically challenged individuals who need the stipend for? I guess I missed that. Are you thinking that these? Are you saying that the CAC is economically challenged?
No, I'm saying we don't need to offer the same stipends that we do to that group to municipal board members and other board members that don't need it. And I think it could have been a lot more focused on the underserved, low income and overburdened groups that we're trying to encourage participation on. And I'm concerned that by opening it up to the community, to the whole organization, that we're diluting what we're doing for the communities that we're trying to bring into the process.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for clearing that up for me. Appreciate it.
Last call for any comments.
And I wasn't talking about increasing the administration. If we did a narrower focused policy, we wouldn't need all the administration for the rest of it.
Dana.
Now, do we have any evidence or indication that providing stipends actually increases the participation of the groups that we're trying to have be more representative in our organization?
And Nelson?
Yeah, so in the memo, you'll see I think there's a section on research. Nationally, yes, the research has been done. Specific to Chittenden County, no. And that's something, that hopefully we will start to do a better job of tracking moving forward, just who we're engaging in various ways through committees, but also through projects to see how it changes over time. But yes, definitely nationally, there have been studies done that offering stipends significantly increases the likelihood that you'll get participation from community members who face barriers. Yeah, and again, like Jeff, I hear what Jeff is saying too, and this doesn't solve the problem, right? This is one tool that we can use. And there's a lot of beauty to the volunteerism culture, and I hope that continues as well. And we have to face the lived realities that people are facing day to day, and keep thinking about different strategies to get more and more voices involved. It's not just this, but hopefully this can help in some places at some times.
And Nelson, the studies also say that if you make the compensation too low, it threatens the backfire.
Yeah, I don't know specifically what you're referring to, but
they were in your note. It was in your notes. It was in your table.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, and there have been community members who have, there is pushback that I've heard on stipends from community members who face barriers as well because of the same belief in that kind of volunteer culture and how important that is. So I don't, yeah, I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying, Jeff. And again, I just hope it's a tool that we can offer in some places as one strategy to potentially increase engagement. And we'll see throughout time, what impacts it has.
And I honestly hope it works. I really do.
Andy Watts. Oop, you unmuted now. Okay.
Yeah. I had to move my mic. We've been offering stipends in Essex for some number of years. I'm not sure how long it's been, but we a couple years ago did an anonymous survey of all of our committee members and asked about it. So we did get positive responses that we definitely do have folks that are on committees in our town that would not otherwise be able to do it if they didn't receive the stipend. So we have evidence. We feel, even with a small number of people that answered in the affirmative to that question, we think it's valuable. So we're continuing to do it in our town.
Thank you. Scott, you're muted.
Yeah. I just want to say, so we had this discussion in Essex Junction, I think 18 months to 2 years ago. There was actually a proposal by the council, to the council, by one of the council members, to increase the stipend for the council to try to attract disadvantaged members of the community or members who had disadvantages to participate. It was not approved, and I think I'm not saying that increasing stipends for people who need to have stipends is not a good idea. I think this is a good proposal, and I want to sort of echo what Jeff was saying, is that to reach disadvantaged groups or those groups who have too much on their plate to participate in municipal meetings, there needs to be outreach as well. And this is something we've been struggling with for the last couple of years, as to how to attract people who either have no time or have childcare issues or transportation issues or can't afford to participate. It's an ongoing discussion. We haven't solved it, and it comes up as probably every single meeting we have in the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Scott. We probably all have the same experiences in our own towns. It's hard to get people involved sometimes. I think if there are no more comments, I think we can vote. All those in favor of this draft stipend policy becoming the actual policy, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye. And those who are opposed, say nay or go like that. Okay, looks like it has passed. Thanks so much, Ann Nelson. And you made it through this part, but you have one other maybe, but first we have Charlie, I think, in your outreach and engagement annual
I
update.
certainly defer to Ann Nelson if she would like to go
Madam Chair,
before.
I move we amend the agenda for Ann Nelson to bring 11 up to next on the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have to vote on that? Can we just do it?
I'm amending the agenda. You have to vote on it.
Okay, all right. All those in favor of amending the agenda?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Say aye or raise your hand. I was going to suggest it, but I knew we'd have to do this. So thank you for doing it.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. This will be quick. As you know, in most meetings, I have that short one-page kind of outreach and engagement update with what CCRPC has been working on, what I've been working on in the areas of kind of equitable policy updates and outreach and engagement. Because we finished up 2025 and we're now in 2026, I'm sharing with you kind of the full outreach and engagement annual report that I put together for 2025. And this just outlines progress that CCRPC has made in the past year, but also the past few years around different goals that we've established as an organization. So the organization of this report is in 4 kind of pillars of action. One is around internal process and capacity. The next one is around the actual regional planning and project process. The third pillar around community engagement, and the last one around leadership. And so if you scroll through, if you're interested, there's kind of a goal under each pillar, and then there's a list of progress made in 2025 and a section around looking ahead in 2026 and hopes for the next year. So again, I'm not going to go through it in a lot of detail. You can dig in as you're interested, but I wanted to give you the option in case you are interested in reflecting on and seeing kind of how I'm thinking about this work and what it looks like moving forward, and how we are as an organization. And there is a brief section at the top with just 2025 highlights at a glance that you can also look at if you don't want to flip through however many pages this is. I think that's all I'll say about it, and let you all look at it on your own time, but I appreciate all the support and look forward to the next year.
And I think you've done a great job on this. You gave us some history, you gave us the current, and then you're looking ahead too. So it's a great report in my mind. And I don't think it requires anything but saying it was great. Thank you. Go see Ray. Go put Ray to bed.
Thank you. I appreciate
you.
that. I will see you all soon.
Yep. Bye-bye. Okay, Charlie.
Oh,
now we can
sorry,
have your
Jackie. Catherine has her hand up.
Oh, sorry,
I just
Catherine.
wanted to catch Ann Nelson before she left, because reading that was an incredible amount of work over the last few years. It was just you wonder how one person or a group of people could do all that, including the outreach. It was just really impressive report.
Thank you. I hope everybody will Charlie pass that on to Ann Nelson I think she's already gone.
Absolutely. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
and Ann Nelson's been a great leader in that, and also a good team. And sorry, I'm seeing Emma's face on the screen here, and definitely a lot of others, Sarah and really Eleni, Taylor, really everybody has really leaned into the work. So
that's true.
Thank you.
So item 10. So for those of you that are newer to the board, every 6 months, we do just a little policy review. It's maybe getting a little consistent at this point about the things that we're keeping track of, which may come up in the legislature. Some of them, come up every year. There's some that are more non-recurring. Probably Act 250 changes has been that recent item for the last couple years. The executive committee looked at this list and had one modification to it, which was to add number 10, which was pay attention to what's going on with school district consolidation. It may have some implications for us, even though we are, certainly not in charge of that and not very involved with it, but we will kind of keep track of what's going on. If they do a lot, realign school districts in Chittenden County, it will have some implications here. So, but happy to take any feedback on this. I think this is really, it kind of grew out of a request, I think, from the board for me to let you all know what things staff are trying to pay attention to in the legislature each year. So if you have something that you think we should be paying attention to that we're not, please, let me know, and we can kind of get it into the hopper, and it'll be on the list in July. But any feedback on this as you look at it now? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, don't go anywhere because you're next. Executive director updates.
Thank you, Jackie. I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I didn't think you were, but
I just want to reassure you. So just wanted to kick off my report. Any feedback on the legislative breakfast? Any things we should be thinking about doing differently? Yeah, Garrett.
I thought it was great and useful. I was a little surprised by some of the reactions from legislators of, oh, we're supposed to deal with that. But overall, I felt like there was some good give and take.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Yeah, I will say, yeah, Emma and I know got some nice comments from legislators even as they were walking in. I know Sarita was on here for a little bit, so well, good. Well, thank you, and thanks for those of you that came. I think it does feel like a good opportunity to kind of make some of those connections with our legislators, and always a challenge in terms of legislative update. the transportation funding conversation is definitely one of those that is getting some more attention. I saw the governor in his budget address was kind of saying there's some transportation revenue that has been going to the ed fund and maybe some other funds, maybe public safety, that he's hoping to pull back into transportation so that there doesn't need to be a gas tax increase. So I think we'll be kind of watching pretty closely what happens with that transportation revenue conversation. And GMT has also, been actively participating in asking the legislature to enable some sort of, committed revenue stream for transit that may be a little broader than relying on municipal property tax for matches and things. And then just to continue that transportation conversation, you may have seen a story, I think it was last week on WCAX, about the older persons and persons with disability transportation services, impaired transit service at SSTA. It's really one of 3 revenue sources or programs that pay for SSTA services. And again, the budget is getting squeezed here, and some riders may not be able to get as many trips as they have gotten historically. So that just want to give you a heads up that is happening. We facilitate the partners that are provide local match for those services. And we will have a special meeting next Friday to talk about some of the changes that are happening. There's been a lot of negotiation. I want to give credit to GMT for working through some difficult things, but also credit to Colchester and your town manager, who have been very actively engaged in the conversation.
Yes.
And trying to make sure your residents are taken care of. Even though some of the conversations have been difficult at times, I think it's been worthwhile. Andy, did you want to weigh in there?
We have a Essex senior bus,
Mm-hmm.
and it's with a partnership with GMT, and I've often wondered why we're the only ones.
I don't have a good answer for that, Andy.
Is it something to be discussed, pursued, or considered? Or is it just make it all more expensive if you do that? I don't know.
It might, it might be something to explore a little bit. I will say that Chittenden County is fairly unique in the way that we have individual municipalities partnering in the service. And so other parts of the state have more generic methods that are more consistent across their whole county or region. So yeah, I don't know a lot about the detail there, Andy, and there's, it got set up that way, 20 or 30 years ago and has continued on.
Yeah. Okay.
I will just add that it's the saddest select board meeting I have ever attended.
Yeah.
In all the years I've been on the select board, because the people who have used this service to get to jobs, to get to all kinds of things, came out in force, and their testimony was heartbreaking.
Yep.
And and the timing was just was not great, but we don't need to rehash that. But anyway,
yeah. And both Colchester and GMT, have there's also been conversation in legislative committees this week about this, and so legislators are definitely also getting sensitized to it. So anyway, thank you to all the parties that are involved in those conversations. Item C here, I think I just want to confirm that we will, and if you could try to plan on being in person in our office for the March meeting. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up, and we will still legally, we have to do hybrid. So, if we get a snowstorm or something, we will go to hybrid, and if you can't make it, but otherwise we will try to get some food here and, entice you with pizza that's not too cold or something really fancy. That's a joke, I think. But So, okay, good plan on that. And then we had a staff retreat in December. And just, as you can tell from some of the other conversations, whether we're talking about the regional plan or the outreach and engagement work that Ann Nelson and others have been working on, we're working on a lot. I think we have 200 individual projects every year that we're working on as a staff. And so we're kind of running around. So we try to take a little bit of time out, once or twice a year to kind of catch our breath. And this retreat kind of focused a little bit on, or mostly on, kind of building relationships within the staff, but also some appreciation. And Emma did a nice little thing of giving you a quick summary, that one pager link. If you click on that link, you can kind of see kind of like 6 categories of comments that we got from individual staff. And you can see the individual post-it notes there if you zoom in, of just people expressing appreciation for each other and things like that. So thank you, Ben. But just wanted to kind of share. I think we all felt pretty, it was a nice retreat and a lot of positive energy amongst the staff coming out of that. So just wanted to share that, and happy to take any questions or comments on that or anything else.
Charlie, I do hope the 4th sticky note down, the 4th column down, the 4th row down, 3rd in from the right. I appreciate the admin team giving us Molly. Or is that money? I'm being
Pretty sure that's money, Chris. That was not my sticky note, but I think that's what that
Definitely,
says.
yeah.
I had to stick that
Not
one in
aware
there.
of any Molly.
We don't have access to Molly.
I just try to lighten things up. Thank you. Good job.
Or anything
we do
like
appreciate the admin team helping us get paid.
Hey, penmanship is still an art that's needed.
I mean, you could take it also that maybe it's a therapy dog rather than something else.
Therapy hamster.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other? Charlie?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, then the committee liaison activities and reports are available for your reading pleasure. Are there any members' items?
Just one really quick silly thing. Andy, thank you for catching that the which committee is at the wrong time. Oh, the UPWP committee is on next Friday. It's actually at 10?
10 in the morning.
Yes.
10 in the
10
morning and
a.m.,
not
yeah.
2:30.
Yeah.
My mistake, Andy. You caught me. And now we know who really read the whole agenda.
And Monday, the Community Advisory Committee is meeting on the 26th, not the 28th. That's Wednesday.
Thank you. No, and actually, I think it's Wednesday, the 28th.
Oh, okay.
The date
Well,
is right.
Monday is the 26th. So.
Okay. 2 flags. 3 flags, I'm out.
No.
We'll keep you and do it right.
Yeah. So are there any members' items? Hearing none.
I move we adjourn.
And Garrett seconds.
All right.
All those in favor signify by raising
Bye.
or leaving. Thank you
Have
so
a
much
good
for
night,
putting
all.
up with me.
Good night, all. Thank
Great
you,
job.
Jackie.
Good job, Jackie.
Good
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, everyone.